And scientists in Iceland are issuing a new warning amid a major volcano eruption. They say toxic gas spewing into the air could reach the capital and surrounding communities.
Imagine standing at the edge of the world, where fire sleeps beneath ice, where the ground beneath your feet is slowly, silently tearing itself apart. That place is Iceland, and for a long time, scientists believed they knew it well. They had mapped its fault lines, tracked its eruptions, and charted its ancient lava fields with impressive precision. They thought they had the full picture. They were wrong. Iceland doesn't just sit on the Earth, it sits on top of a battle. Beneath it, two of the planet's great tectonic plates, the North American and the Eurasian, are slowly pulling away from each other, drifting apart at about 1.5 inches every year. That constant tug opens wounds in the crust, and through those wounds, heat and molten rock push upward toward the surface. The result? More than 100 volcanoes, 30 of them still breathing. Some rise boldly above the landscape. Others hide beneath massive glaciers, smoldering in secret, until they don't. When those ice-covered giants finally wake, they don't just erupt. They melt entire glaciers in hours, sending walls of floodwater tearing down valleys with almost no warning. And sometimes, their reach extends far beyond Iceland's shores. In 2010, a single eruption from Eyjafjallajökull sent a towering column of ash drifting across Europe. Thousands of flights were grounded. Millions of people had their lives disrupted, all because of one volcano on a small island in the North Atlantic. But Iceland's underground heat isn't only destructive. That same energy bubbles up through cracks in the rock to fill the island's famous hot springs and geothermal pools. Beneath the calm surface, the land is always alive, always pressurized, which makes what researchers recently found there all the more extraordinary. It started quietly, the way the most astonishing discoveries often do. In the south of Iceland, near the ancient, storied region of Þjórsárdalur, a team from the Archaeological Institute of Iceland set out on what seemed like a routine excavation. Nothing about the site raised any red flags. It was just another day of careful, methodical work. Then, someone noticed something strange. The ground sounded hollow underfoot. Parts of the soil felt less solid than they should. The team exchanged uncertain glances and began to dig. They didn't have to go far. Just beneath the surface, their tools revealed a small opening, a mouth in the earth, leading downward into darkness. At first, it looked like it might be a natural lava tube, the kind formed when ancient molten rock flows and cools unevenly. Iceland is full of them, but when researchers leaned in and looked closer, they saw something that changed everything. The walls were smooth, too smooth. Tool marks were carved into the stone, unmistakably made by human hands. This wasn't geology, this was craftsmanship. The team kept digging. That small opening unfolded into something far grander, a network of underground chambers, connected by narrow passageways, some opening into wide rooms with deliberately flattened floors, others narrowing into tight, enclosed spaces. The layout wasn't random, it was planned. Iceland rarely offers discoveries like this. Early settlers built their homes from turf and timber, materials that rot, collapse, and vanish over centuries in the island's cold, wet climate. But rock endures. And here, preserved in volcanic stone, was a fragment of a world long gone. Who built these hidden rooms? The answer came slowly, pieced together from fragments. Charcoal scraped from the walls, organic material tucked into corners. When scientists sent these samples to be radiocarbon dated, the results pointed unmistakably to the Viking Age, somewhere between 800 and 1060 AD, when Norse settlers first crossed the North Atlantic and made Iceland their home. Life on this island was hard in those early centuries. Trees were scarce, wood was precious, winters were brutal, wind scoured, snow heavy and unforgiving. So the settlers did what survivors do. They adapted. They carved into the soft volcanic rock, creating spaces that breathed differently from the surface world, warmer in winter, cooler in summer, sheltered from everything the sky could throw at them. These weren't just shelters, they were homes. evidence of families who looked at a hostile, unfamiliar land and decided to stay, and found a way to make it work. But the story doesn't stop there. Because even as archaeologists were marveling at what lay beneath the surface, geologists were quietly making a discovery of their own, and it was even more unsettling. Using earthquake data, gravity measurements, and heat flow readings gathered from across the island and the surrounding seafloor, scientists began building a picture of what Iceland is actually made of. And what they found didn't match the textbooks. Under normal ocean crust, the rock is roughly 7 kilometers thick, dense, volcanic, thin. That's what you'd expect along a mid-ocean ridge like the one Iceland sits on. But under Iceland, the crust reaches 30 kilometers in places. That's not ocean crust, that's continental crust, the thick, ancient kind you'd expect to find under a country, not in the middle of the sea. The implication is extraordinary. Some researchers now believe that deep beneath Iceland and the surrounding seafloor, fragments of an ancient landmass are still buried. Remnants of a continent that began to break apart when the Atlantic Ocean first started to form, millions of years ago. Parts of it, they suggest, never fully sank. Iceland grew on top of what remained. They've given it a name: Icelandia. If the theory holds, it means Iceland isn't simply a volcanic island built on an ocean ridge. It's something stranger, a place where an ancient, drowned world still lingers, hidden beneath millennia of lava and sea. Iceland was never just fire and ice. It is a place where the ground holds memory, of human hands that carved chambers into stone 1,000 years ago, and of tectonic forces that have been reshaping the world for millions of years before that. Even on an island scientists have studied for generations, the Earth can still pull back a curtain and reveal something no one expected. Which raises a question worth sitting with. What else is still down there? Until next time, see ya!